Hello and welcome. My name is Amanda, and today I wanted to share with you my wrap up for January. So, these are all of the books that I read across 3 different formats. We've got audiobooks, Kindle books, and physical books. And I'm really impressed by how this month went reading wise. I read some really good books. So, to start out, I'm just going to kind of go in the order that I wrote them out in my bullet journal because I don't put start and end dates. Some of them that I wrote first, I finish after the ones that I write in next. So I don't remember exactly what order I read these in. We're just going to go down the list so that I hopefully don't forget any. So the first book I have is Out of Oz by Gregory Maguire. This was my one carryover from 2019. I had started it in October and just finished it in January, so it took me quite some time. It is the final book in the Wicked Years series by Gregory Maguire, which starts with, oh my god, the Wicked, what is that called? Wicked, just Wicked. So this follows the events after Wicked and wraps up the story in a somewhat nice little bow. I did not like this story. I gave it a 1-star rating and I only had 208 pages to finish out this book. I just was not intrigued by the storyline. I really just didn't care what happened, and if I weren't so keen on finishing the series as a whole, I would have and I should have DNF'd this book, which is something I need to be better about for this year. But I just, I didn't like it. There's always so much back and forth. There's so much traveling within these books, and it's kind of like pointless seeming for most of the time. And I just feel like there's a lot of it that could have been taken out and reduced in order to make a better and more engaging story. I also have talked about this before. I really don't like Gregory Maguire's writing style because he uses words that people wouldn't use in like everyday conversation, which just makes it so dense and clunky to read through. And half the time I feel really stupid when I'm reading these books that I don't know these words or how to pronounce them or even use them in a sentence myself or what they mean and things like that. So I feel like I miss a lot when I'm reading these books just because of his writing style, and I'm not a fan of it. So unfortunately, did not really care for that book, but I am happy that I now have another series that I have started checked off my list. The next book I have is The Hobbit by J.R.R. Tolkien. This was a buddy read for me with my friend Rainey over at Rainy Day Reads, and we read it for the Lord of the Read-Along, which is a read-along of the whole series being hosted by Krista over at Books and Jams and Sarah at Sarah's Nightstand. The Hobbit was only scheduled to take 1 month, and then the 3 books in the trilogy are scheduled to take 2 months each. So this was a reread for me. This is my very old like Scholastic Book Fair set, and it smells like dust and it's gross. It's really stinky, but I love it. It's so nostalgic for me. I really enjoy J.R.R. Tolkien's writing. I don't mind. So this is going to sound very contradictory to what I just said about Out of Oz. I like flowery writing, and I like prose that just is very imaginative and it takes a long time to kind of get what the speaker is saying. It just has to be written well. So like I really like magical realism, which is very much like that. But J.R.R. Tolkien just has such a way of storytelling that's so fun. And he really took the time to build up his world to make you see it exactly how he imagined it, which I love so much. I have only read these books before in a physical format, and I do have the audible narration for all of them. So this time around, I am listening to them all via audiobook. This was 11 hours and 5 minutes, and I just gave it a 4-star rating. I had so much fun with this reread, and I really enjoy these books, and I'm really excited that Sky and I will be able to rewatch The Hobbit again soon. Hopefully get the kiddo to watch it. He tried when I was away on a trip, and the kid thought that the movie was boring, which I think he's adopted because this is not boring. But we just finished the Lord of the Rings trilogy with him watching it, and he really enjoyed those. So I think now going back, he'll probably like The Hobbit even, or at least give it a chance. The next books I have are the last 2 full-length Frederick Bachman novels that I needed to read. I listened to both Beartown and Us Against You. Beartown was 13 hours 11 minutes, and Us Against You was 14 hours and 17 minutes. I gave both of these a 4-star rating. This is the only duology I think that Frederick Bachman has. Even though there's a character in My Grandmother Asked Me to Tell You She's Sorry that has her own book. Britt Marie was here. But this centers around the ice hockey teams, specifically the junior team in a town in Sweden that's very small called Beartown. And events that take place upon putting these athletes on such a pedestal, and them essentially not being reprimanded for not being decent citizens. So basically, there is a girl whose father is the GM of the team who gets raped by one of the star players of the hockey team, and it's just kind of about the aftermath with that and how the town is divided and things like that. I really enjoyed how this story was told. It wasn't told in a way, it bounced around between multiple perspectives, and it wasn't like one chapter would be one person and the next would be the next person. It was like you got multiple points of view in one chapter, and it was kind of told as like an outsider's perspective almost. But it also felt very much like you could insert yourself in your town into the setting that Frederick Bachman built up. So I really enjoyed it. It was definitely heart-wrenching, but I think it was told in just a very graceful way. And then Us Against You, this is kind of the lead up to the rape and kind of a little bit of aftermath. And then this follows the events right after and as the town is split and how they rebuild after that. So very, very good books. Frederick Bachman is definitely one of my favorite writers. So I'm hoping that he comes out with more books here soon, because all I have left are his short stories and things like that. So the next book, the next 2 books were Kindle books for me. I'm going to talk about A Court of Thorns and Roses and A Court of Mist and Fury by Sarah J. Maas. Maas? I think she's Maas. Sarah J. Maas. Anyway, I buddy read these with my friend Darshell over at Books and Planners, and I'll be honest, I really wasn't going to give Sarah J. Maas a try because I just thought she was super overhyped and I wouldn't like her stories. And I was tired at that point of hearing people say there were a lot of like Beauty and the Beast retellings coming on at that time. And it's one of my favorite Disney movies. And I just really didn't want to give it a chance because I didn't want it to ruin something that was a favorite of mine, I guess. I read both of these on my Kindle, and I read them so fast. A Court of Thorns and Roses is 432 pages, and A Court of Mist and Fury is 626 pages. Both I gave a 4-star rating. A Court of Mist and Fury was almost a 5-star rating for me. But I enjoyed this story so much. I got completely sucked into it. I feel like Sarah J. Maas did a really, really fantastic job of building this world and introducing us to Fae and just kind of what that's like. I really like Feyre as a character because even though she's written as this like strong-willed woman, she also isn't just like a two-dimensional person. She is multifaceted, and you can see how she craves security and stability and things like that. And she just isn't always like I can take care of myself, I can do what I want sort of person. So I really like that. I really liked her relationship with Hamlin, and just her desire for helping this race that she has been afraid of and hated her entire life. So I really like that. And then A Court of Mist and Fury just exceeded those boundaries that A Court of Thorns and Roses set. I really, really, really enjoyed that we got to explore more courts. I liked the plot and the storyline so much more, and that ending was just crazy. So I'm really, really looking forward to getting into A Court of Wings and Ruin, which is the next one. But I really, really enjoyed those, and I'm so glad that Darshell wanted to do a buddy read because I honestly don't think I would have gotten to them otherwise. The next book I have is Passion by Lauren Kate. This was a 9-hour and 53-minute audiobook that I give a 2-star rating. I had the first 2 books of this series called Fallen on my bookshelves for quite some time. I think I picked them up not long after I had finished, or like the last Twilight book came out and I had finished that. And I was kind of looking for something similar, but this follows Fallen Angels. And it's pretty tropey. It's not really my jam anymore. But I wanted to I'm a completionist, so whenever I start a series that I'm at least intrigued by, I usually want to finish it. I think I'm going to give this series one more book, and if they're just middle of the road, okay kind of books, I'm not going to continue on. I'll just DNF the whole series. But Passion was okay. It follows the events right after Torment, but I honestly really didn't understand the point of this one. Basically, Luce goes through the shadows, what are they called? The announcers. And she goes back to a whole bunch of her past selves to figure out, like, why she and Daniel are always thrown together and things like that. And it just, I don't really get the point of this book, but it is what it is. So we'll see how the next book goes whenever I get to it, and if I want to finish the series or DNF it. The next book I have on my list is Winterwood by Shay Earnshaw. I have not yet read The Wicked Deep, but I knew that, well, this was actually the buddy read for the Treat Your Shelves readathon hosted by Paige over at Creating & Co. in December, and I didn't get to it then, but I wanted to read this in the winter because the title, and I love this book so much. I know this one seemed to receive a lot of hit and miss feedback. A lot of people thought it was really slow, which it is. It's a magical realism, so it's got that flowery prose, and it takes a while to kind of get the point across and stuff. But I love that, and I get so sucked into it. This was 319 pages. I gave it a 4-star rating. And even though I knew what was going on with Oliver, I was still really intrigued by the plot to find out more. And it was perfect for when I read it. It was such a cold feeling, and I felt cold the entire time I read it. And I just really enjoyed the story as a whole. It ended exactly how I wanted it to, which was super predictable and super easy, but I was happy with the ending because what I wanted to happen happened. And I'm okay with that. But this makes me even more excited now to pick up The Wicked Deep, which fingers crossed I'll do at the end of summer or October this year. So we'll see. But definitely interested in reading more from Shea Earnshaw. And then the last book I have to talk about is Blameless by Gail Carriger. This is the third book in the Parasol Protectorate series. This was an 11-hour and 54-minute audiobook that I gave a 2-star rating. And similar with Passion, I just didn't really understand the point of it. I really didn't care about the plot so much for this one. And I don't know. I don't know if it was just kind of when I read it that I was trying to get through it quickly or what it was. But it really just didn't capture my attention. I didn't really care what was happening, but I care enough to want to know what happens next. So I again am going to give this series one more book. Actually, I think there's only 5 books in that series, so I might just finish it. But it was all right for what it was. It's fun. They get up to lots of different shenanigans and things like that, and there's a little mystery about a little critter that's going to come into the world that I'm intrigued to learn more about. I also read 37 Pages in The Bear and the Nightingale by Catherine Arden. This is a reread for me. I'll have it finished in February, so I'll actually talk more about it and that wrap up, but I am enjoying the reread. I'm glad I had listened to this already because I know how to pronounce the names now, which I always struggle with reading Russian-inspired books just for the pronunciation and things like that. So this month I read 9 books. I am well on my way of hitting my goal of 100 books for the year. I read a total of 1,622 pages, which is really good for me because usually I listen to more audiobooks than I actually pick up physical books or ebooks. Total time listened for me was a little low. It was 60 hours and 20 minutes. And then my average rating was a 3.2. So overall, I am really happy with how this month went. I had 6 4-star books, which is unheard of for me because I'm very analytical and data driven in my ratings. But I just picked up some really great books this month, and I really hope that continues for the rest of the year. So we'll see. I would love to know what you read in the month of January. If you read any of the same books as me, or if you've read them in the past, please do let me know your thoughts and opinions and just comments on them down in the comments below, and I will chat with you there until my next video. Bye!